And just icing on the cake, after all of this happened, the bride's bouquet got stolen.
What's up, everybody? My name is Adam, and I'm the host of the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, the show that is dedicated on bringing on passionate people, learning about their stories, and delivering value to entrepreneurs. So if that's what you're interested in, go ahead and follow, like, and subscribe. You know what I'm saying?
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, where you get to know a little bit more about people, passions, and all things business. Today, sitting across the way, I have Kristian Ellison of Kristian Designs. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. For those that don't know, give me the elevator pitch of Kristian Designs.
So Kristian Designs is a business that I developed when I was 19, and I had no idea what I wanted to do in high school. You know, you go through those like college prep things, and I would make up something new every time because I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. And so throughout high school, I joined FFA, and I fell in love with flowers. And so that's where, like...
FFA, sorry, what is that?
Future Farmers of America.
Okay. And
yeah.
You fell in love with flowers.
Oh, my gosh. I would even go to the greenhouse on Christmas morning.
To pick flowers?
Just to water them. That's how much I loved being, like, in plants and flowers and getting my hands dirty. And
love that.
So I would, you know, do that on the weekdays during school. And then I got a job at a flower shop for about 2.5 years. And my love for weddings and just that relationship with people, like you're working with them on one of the best days of their life. It just grew from there, and I knew that's what I wanted to do.
That's
so
awesome.
I opened my business in 2016.
2016, and the design company is your main business is floral arrangements.
Wedding flowers, yeah.
Fantastic. So super exciting because, like, you know, I love talking to young entrepreneurs that are getting into the game. Obviously, there's got to be the story there, right? When you were first kind of like getting, like what really triggered that passion for flowers specifically?
I just liked being in the dirt. I don't know how else to put it. Like, I just like getting dirty. I liked learning about flowers, the components of soil, which is really strange, but I love that. And I was extremely shy in high school.
Okay.
I wouldn't even raise my hand. I would cry if the teacher called on me.
Really?
Yeah. So that was my way of like expressing myself, was through flowers and tying a bow. And, you know, that was like what was in my head, but I wouldn't talk.
So you would rather deal with flowers than deal with people.
Exactly.
Love that. What's your first memory of kind of like, you said that you had this passion, FFA, I believe.
Yes.
Was there a memory that you had? What's your earliest memory of kind of flowers?
So I was, like I said, super shy. And I just decided to take a floral design class in my high school. And my teacher at the time, she was like, Kristian, you really need to compete in flowers.
She saw it earlier.
Yeah.
What was the teacher's name?
Susanna Lanier.
Shout out, Suzanne.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I love her so much. She was like, you really need to compete in it. You're really good at it. And I was like, I can't. I'm so shy. I can't do it. I can't be in front of people. And so she just kept pushing me, kept asking me, and so I just agreed to it. And I went all the way to nationals.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
It was just crazy. Like, I finally felt good about like the path I was going on, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. Everyone was telling me, you need to do this, you need to go to college, and I didn't want any of that. I hated school.
You did?
Granted, I was a straight A student.
Interesting.
But I hated school because I was so shy. And so the flowers just made me feel happy, and like I had something going. If that makes sense.
That's awesome. So, you know, when you started competing, what do you think was about your designs that kind of like allowed your teacher to say like, oh, wow, like she's got something here?
She just told me I have a natural gift. And my flowers, I don't know if you've seen them, but they're not traditional at all.
So let's talk about that.
That's very hard for me to do. And there's nothing wrong with like a traditional design. Everyone has their own style. And mine is not, your round, typical carnations type design. It's wild. I put fruit in my arrangements. I've put Harry Potter wands in my flowers before. Like, I like it to be fun. I like it to be personal for the couple or the event that I'm doing. And I like it to be interesting to where someone looks at it, they're like, wow, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, that's super cool.
Yeah. So did that start expressing kind of like at that very early age? Is that how you got originally to nationals or?
Yeah, like I would weave wire into like palm leaves and stuff. I would tie random things into my arrangements. I would make shapes out of things and put them in. So I feel like that's what made me stand out from the other
competition.
Flowers.
Yeah. Where was nationals held at?
Oh gosh, that was so long ago. I
Oh,
don't even remember.
we going to back in the day. You don't remember?
No.
That's
gosh,
okay. That's okay.
I don't even remember.
Regardless, very fond memories of kind of like that experience. So you said you didn't really like school, but you were a straight A student. So, what kind of like still kept your, I guess, head in the books, even though you seemed like you detested kind of like being there?
To be honest, my parents.
Okay.
My parents pushed me to be the best that I could be in school, whatever I did. My parents are also entrepreneurs. They own 3-4 businesses now. So they have that mindset of you need to work hard, all the time, give 100%. And so I always studied. I always did my very best, no matter if I liked it or not, because they taught me that, it's going to matter later on. So
let's kind of like deep dive into that, right? So, there's obviously a lot of entrepreneurship in the family, like, and you saw, I guess, the work that they had put in and all this, the successes that they kind of like achieved. Did that have any impact on why you decided to go towards like a more entrepreneurial route?
It might have. I just knew I did not want to go to college because I hated school that much.
We've established that 110%.
Yes.
We do not like school.
No. So I knew I wanted to do flowers, and my dad, I quit my job. And
where were you working at?
Colonial House of Flowers in Statesboro.
Okay, got you.
And so I quit my job, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm like, I want to do flowers, but I don't know where to go.
Sure.
And so my dad drew up my logo, and he's like, this is
what you're going to do.
You need to do this. Like, you love it. You have a passion for it. God is telling you need to go for this. So I prayed about it. And 2 days later, that was it.
Love the kind of like impact. Our paths are so oftentimes are unknown, but there's always these things that kind of like pop up that give us some sort of direction, right? Which is amazing, and I hear that very clearly in your story. One of the things I wanted to ask you is your shyness. Do we know where the source of that came from?
I just always I have bad anxiety, and I deal with it, every day. I think everyone has a little bit of that.
Sure. But yours is...
I'm like sweating right now, honestly. I'm so nervous.
Relax.
But I just didn't, I don't know. I never wanted to put myself out there. I never wanted to have people, I guess, look at me. So in school, I never raised my hand. I would go up to my teachers, and you can ask any of them. I would be like, can I please just do this project after school when no one's here? Can I present this just to you? Because
just to the teacher.
Yeah.
But you didn't have a problem with the teacher.
No. Well, I was still nervous, but if it was like one-on-one, it wasn't so bad. But just being in front of people was so bad.
Do you have any brothers
for me.
and sisters?
I do. I have a brother and a sister.
Do they have the same personality? Are they afraid of being in front of... At all?
No. My sister is literally involved in everything. She plays the drums for Southeast Bullet.
Very cool.
So, and my brother, he's all over the place.
That's awesome.
He likes being in front of the camera.
How were you able to overcome that shyness? Because entrepreneurship is not a arena that you can be shy at.
No, and I learned that real quick.
Did you?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So, when I opened my business, I got invited to Savannah Wedding Vendors.
Okay.
And it's a group of vendors in Savannah that do weddings, obviously. And they meet once a month, and they just connect with each other. They just talk, you know, whether it's about business or just friendship, it's that networking.
Sure.
And so I got invited, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And so that was like the first time I had to just suck it up and be like, you know, if I'm going to do this thing, I got to be able to talk in front of people.
Yeah.
And at those meetings, they make you talk in a microphone.
Yeah.
And introduce yourself. And I was like, all these people are looking at me. I can do this. So doing that over and over and over again made it easier.
How was that first time? Did you get through it?
My lip was like shaking so hard.
Do we have a recording anywhere?
Oh, I'm sure I can find it somewhere.
That's awesome.
I'm sure. Oh my gosh, it was nerve-wracking. But being, you know, doing it over and over and over again, and now meetings every single week and talking in front of people. I teach workshops. I teach classes. I'm having to talk in front of people all the time. So, like, those nerves, I still get nervous because I want to do good.
Sure.
Which I don't think is a bad thing, but...
Is that where it comes from? Do you feel like that is kind of like the source of that, I guess, that shyness,
probably,
of like this desire to just kind of like...
I want to do good, and I want to make an impact every time I go somewhere and talk to somebody. Whether it's in the work that I do, like flowers and learning that part, or whether it's spiritual, like... teaching them, you know, God's love through what I do. That's, I guess, why I get so nervous. I want it to be good and have an impact on them.
Yeah. So at this point, do you think that you've overcome your shyness? And do you think you've overcome, I guess, the anxiety feeling that you feel when you have like certain events?
I do. Like I said, I still get nervous.
Okay.
Every wedding, I get nervous.
But shyness is no longer there.
Yeah, no, I'm not shy. I can walk into a room, shake everyone's hand, and, you know, talk. But the nervousness is always there.
Congratulations on that. I know that that's like a lot of people deal with kind of like being very shy.
Yeah.
And that's a phenomenal, like, you know, result of something that you've done.
It's hard.
So let's kind of like start talking about, you know, your business and that sort of thing. So, you know, you've kind of like you've obviously achieved success in kind of like the competition world. And then where was your first job at, you know, in flowers?
My first wedding was for a family friend.
Okay.
I was dating this guy at the time, and his cousins were getting married. And so it was my first wedding, and I spent 4 or 5 days on this wedding. Like, I wanted it to be the best. This was my, you know, first big thing. I went in the woods, and I, like, cut everything. It was wild. I spent, 10 to 12 hours a day on this wedding, and it was in the middle of June. It was so hot. It was outside. Everything was outside, but I think it went so perfect.
Yeah.
And I didn't get paid for it, you know, because it was family, but I wanted it to be special.
Sure.
I was like, this is my first time I get to show people what I can do. And so,
what was the reaction from kind of like, you know?
They were so happy.
Really?
Yes. I saw pictures. I covered an entire arbor of greenery that I got out of the woods, but it was great. It was beautiful.
How much fun did you have?
I had the best time.
Yeah.
I was just so happy. And that's something that was hard to find, like through high school, trying to figure out what I wanted to do and trying to, you know, you hear everyone's opinions about you need to do this, you need to take this path. And I was like, no, like I know it's flowers. I don't know where or the extent of it, but I knew that was the path.
Where did you learn, right? So like, you know, one of the questions I have is like, you know, once you've identified flowers as being the thing that you wanted to do, how did you kind of like acquire knowledge, and where would your like knowledge come from?
So FFA, when you compete, there's 3 things that you compete in every time. So you do design. Okay. And then you do a identification. So they have flowers laid out on a table, and you have to go one at a time and tell them what it is. And then a written exam to where you know the history of
Gotcha.
flowers, which don't ask me questions about it now because I have let that go, but I knew it back then. And so I learned little by little in the FFA the like fundamentals of floral design.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of developed my own style from there. I learned tips and tricks from the flower shop that I worked in. And then from there, I just, follow people, network with people. Oh, yeah, this is, way easier to do it this way than the way I was doing, like washing buckets, for example.
Sure.
We spend hours washing buckets.
Uh-huh.
And I found a florist in Atlanta, and he's like showing all these florists that you just get an electric drill with the brush tip, and I was like, oh my gosh, we've been doing this by hand for years. And he's like, just watch. And he's like, okay. Yeah. So I just learned little by little. I feel like you never stop learning as an entrepreneur. You always learn new things every day.
So let's go back to kind of like the story. So you started the business. You figure out like, this is kind of like the path. Your dad kind of like helps you with the logo, which, props to him for being so supportive. Like, I mean, that's a huge aspect. What happens next?
So I go to a couple meetings. I finally land a wedding in Savannah, which was a big goal of mine. I wanted to be in Savannah because, I don't know, just something about Savannah weddings is so beautiful to me. And they just have a totally different style. It's, to me, more elevated. And so I wanted to be in that. So I got a wedding there. And then from there, it just like bloomed into, 10 weddings a year, 20 weddings a year, and now I'm at 45 weddings a year.
Amazing.
And it's crazy. It's crazy.
Are you having fun still?
Every time. I mean, last weekend I had a wedding on Tybee, and the bride, when she saw the flowers, she started crying, just tears.
What does that make you feel?
I started crying. I was crying.
Then everybody's emotional.
Crying. We're holding each other. I'm in this like big jacket because it was cold and drizzling. And the photographer walks up and he's like, take a picture. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a mess. But we were just crying. She just made me so happy. Like, that is the moment I look forward to.
Yeah.
Some people say giving the bride's bouquet is the most scary part of the wedding, but that is my favorite part. I write a note on the vase every time. I want a relationship with my client. I don't want them to feel like a client, but I don't know what else to call it. I want them to be a friend, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I want them to be able to text me and call me and not feel like I'm doing a job for them.
Sure. So. What's been kind of like the most challenging moment in this period of time while being an entrepreneur?
I think the beginning. The beginning was really hard because my parents were very supportive, but not in the means of giving me money. Wow. So everything I've ever bought, everything I've ever done is all me. Every car for my business, every venture I've put money into. And so that's been a thing in itself. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of hard work.
And where are we now with that? So you've kind of had to strategize very in a way where, it led you to success, right? Where are we at this moment in time? What's the new thing that's about to happen?
I purchased land in October, and I will be finally building a space. A lot of people don't know this, but I work out of a tiny space, probably the size of this room. And I make weddings out of a space this size, and just dream about having a space where I can have everyone working and they have their own table and a cooler. I've never owned a cooler, which is another challenge in itself.
For flowers, I think.
For flowers, oh my gosh. It is so difficult.
How do you overcome stuff like that? I know the refrigeration is absolutely critical.
Yeah, isn't it? I knew I wanted a cooler. Obviously, we need a cooler. Florist needs a cooler. But I didn't want to invest in one in a space that wasn't mine. So most florists can get flowers in, a week or two ahead of time and start working on the wedding. because I don't have a cooler. I get the flowers in 2 days before the wedding. And we are rocking and rolling, 12-hour, 18-hour work shifts to make everything in that short time frame. So, yeah.
That is such a cool thing. And, I want to speak to it for a second because, entrepreneurship is a lot about figuring out the problem and fixing the problem, right? So even though you have this limitations, I think a lot of times like people will be presented with a problem. I can't do that because of such and such. But you overcame it by saying of course,
we're going to
make it happen by, like doing like 12-hour, 18-hour shifts.
Yes.
But you still got to achieve the result that you were looking for.
Right, exactly. And we have a saying, all of my girls think it's hilarious, but we say it's the Kristian Designs way.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. When we do something so ridiculous and then like when we stack things in the most creative ways to fit in this room, they're like, that's the Kristian Designs way.
I love that. I love that. I
think I'll miss those moments.
I think that's such a cool story, though, because, again, like being able to adapt and overcome is why there's entrepreneurship, because we are faced with so many challenges on a day-to-day basis.
And it's fun.
It is fun. Being creative, like problem solving is definitely, part of it. What, so when can we expect, I guess, like you've purchased the land.
Yes.
Getting ready to kind of like move on it.
Yes.
When can someone maybe step shop into the store?
So hoping by the summer.
Okay.
But we'll see. I wanted to have it, like, the land cleared by now, but October was absolutely insane for me. I haven't had a weekend free till this weekend since September.
Yeah.
So I haven't been able to really like go full force on it. But now that wedding season's slowed down and coming to an end, I can finally focus on the land.
Any other fun stories from kind of like this journey?
I can tell you about the craziest thing that's ever happened
to me. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about crazy.
So I work every wedding, and I sometimes work 74 hours in a week for these weddings. And so there was one particular weekend where we had 3 or 4 weddings and an event, and it was big. It was back to back to back. So I needed all hands on deck. Well, I get 2 phone calls that 2 of my girls can't come.
Why?
One of them was sick, and I can't remember. I know. And the other one, I don't remember what happened. So then my mom comes to help save the day. So she was my
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. She was my extra employee that weekend. And I had a sinus infection, a double ear infection, and eye infection.
So you were sick too?
Oh, I was so sick. I had forgotten some of my tools that I needed, so we had to like improvise. And just icing on the cake after all of this happened, the bride's bouquet got stolen right before her wedding.
Right before?
I think it was like 10 minutes or so before she walked down the aisle.
Oh my goodness. Where were you guys at?
So we were at the venue.
Okay.
And I had just set up her ceremony.
Uh-huh.
And I had my mom and my other head designer at another wedding. So I had 2 weddings going on at the same time.
Okay.
And they
different sites?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do that all the time.
Sure.
It's crazy.
But the same location, but like.
Yeah, in Savannah, different locations.
Got you.
And they come down the stairs and they're like, Kristian, where's the bride's bouquet? And I was like, I delivered it this morning. It's upstairs in their Airbnb. Couldn't find it. We went outside. We looked in the dump. We looked in everyone's cars. We searched the entire venue.
Did you ever find it? Oh, let's go.
Bride doesn't know any of this is happening.
Okay.
Which is good. I never want, my
stress.
brides to stress.
Yeah.
So we're searching for it, whatever. We call the Airbnb people. And they said because she checked out late, they took it.
Why did they do that?
That's so rude.
That's rude. I don't like, even.
I don't even have words. And it said happy wedding day on it. Like I wrote a note, like, when you saw it, this was the bride's bouquet. And they took it home. And I was like, okay.
Where's your house at?
So we got the address.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah, and I showed up at the house. And
you kicked down the door?
Well, the guy that had taken the bouquet had it on his front porch on his little coffee table thing.
Oh, my goodness.
In the sun. And he's smoking a cigarette on the steps.
God.
And I had my husband on the phone because I was like, I don't know what I'm about to walk into. And I was like, hey, I really need this bouquet back. That's the bride's bouquet. And he gave it to me, luckily. Like, there was no arguing, no fighting or anything. He gave it to me. And I was crying the whole way back to the venue because it was like, after all these weddings this weekend, everything that had happened.
Yeah, you're just sick.
I'm sick. I don't feel good. And the bride's bouquet gets stolen. Like, what in the world? But I get it to her 2 minutes before she walks down the aisle. That was the wildest weekend I've ever had.
You know what's interesting about, like, you know, events like this? Because I think, you know, as an entrepreneur, there's always something that comes up, right?
There's so much. I wish we had cameras on us 24/7.
Exactly.
People just don't know all the things that we do.
But once you go through something like that, nothing ever phases you anymore. You're like,
really doesn't.
I mean, you know, like it
really doesn't.
You just kind of like, you know, adapt and kind of like you look at it calmly and try to figure it out.
Someone calls in sick. Oh, okay. You know, I just got 10 extra hours of work. It's fine. No, it's fine.
That's amazing. What is the best way for, you know, let me ask you this. What's the dream? What's the dream for you?
Right now, the dream is to have a place where I can create and, you know, every person that works for me, I always want it to be such a good space. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to stress. Of course, our job is stressful in its own, you know, way, but I want them to be able to come to me as a friend, not really a boss, if that makes sense, and be happy and have a good time and us always laugh and joke around. And I also want to be doing bigger weddings. So that's another thing. And keep Georgia Southern happy. Always.
Yeah. So Georgia Southern is also a client.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So where can your work be seen at Georgia Southern?
So I do all of their galas, their 40 under 40 events. They had a wine tasting not too long ago, and I was part of that. I've done their tailgates, barbecues. I've done a Georgia Southern wedding. Do you remember that one a couple years ago? I did that wedding on Sweetheart Circle. Their 1906 is the big boy. Yeah, that one's fun. That was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. You know, what advice would you have for somebody that maybe has walked through something similar, right? Like in terms of not really knowing what the path for them to take. Because there was a moment in time in your life that you didn't really know kind of like what you needed to do.
Right, yeah.
What advice would you give them?
I think just find things that make you happy. Find things that you can express yourself in. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to figure things out super quick, and we want things, you know, to happen right then and there, and they don't always do that. So I feel like just keep being you and pray about it, and it'll happen.
That's awesome. How do people get in contact with you? Do you have a website? What you got going on?
Website is down right now.
Okay.
It is rough.
Okay.
I'm having someone work on it at the moment. So Instagram, Facebook,
give us
emails.
What it is. What is it?
It's Kristian.Designs.
Okay.
Designs? Yeah.
Okay.
On Instagram.
On Instagram.
And then Kristian Designs on Facebook.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Kristian, I have to say, you know, very inspired by kind of like your passion for turning your passion into a business, right? I think oftentimes there are things out there that, you know, people enjoy doing, but since you fell in love with this, it shows through everything that you do. Now when you have to work under pressure or whatever it is, it no longer feels like that because you're having so much fun doing that.
Exactly.
And I think that that's such a rare thing to find. And I encourage like listeners to, whenever that they have the chance to try to lean into that as much as they can.
Exactly.
But thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And excited to see the store and everything that you have to offer.
I can't wait.
Awesome. Appreciate it.